Magandang gabi lahat. Good evening all. I'm Motzie, the creator of the High Night Podcast, and I'm here with my lovely friend and co-host, Edward McKee.
How's it going, everybody?
Welcome to the High Night B-Sides, where we chat about the High Night episodes, characters, inspirations, Filipino culture, folklore, mythology, monsters, and of course, the wonders of Toronto. And wherever you're living in right now, Edward, if you want to share that or not, it's your choice.
I live in the United States, in case that wasn't obvious. I'm American. I've never been to Toronto, which is every single time Motzie says, we're talking about the wonders of Toronto, it makes me laugh, because I've never been there, so I wouldn't know anything.
You must come.
But I feel like I'm learning along with all of the other international listeners out there, so it's fine.
Exactly. Yeah, it's my way of conning you into coming to visit me. So
I want to. Hopefully soon.
Yay! soon. One day. But yeah, so today is High Night B-Sides episode 1.6, and we are talking about the following episodes. That's episode 64, Anak, or Child, episode 65, Balisong, or Butterfly Knife, and episode 66, Irog, or Darling. These are some very exciting episodes to talk about, and I'm very happy for those who have sent in their questions, because, yeah, these are some episodes that people got very excited about.
Oh yes, me too.
Mm-hmm.
Myself is definitely included on that list of people who got very excited.
Yeah, this one's the one that, got everyone talking. But before we start on those episodes, I do want to quickly summarize each episode so that people know what we're talking about, and basically cover the questions from our listeners from there.
Mm-hmm.
So, summary for Anak or Child is, Maddie summons young Will's wrathful ghost in the presence of his father, and Pocket the Cat's origin is revealed. So this was the Pocket episode with Cornelius and Mary, and of course young Will.
Mm-hmm.
So for those of you who have listened, you know what happens. It was very dramatic and very cute because Pocket's there. Yippee! We love Pocket.
We love Pocket.
And Balisong or Butterfly Knife. Cornelius gives Mary a chance to sway the benefactor. Maddie has another strange dream where she meets an elder with a knife in hand and eyes like stars, and learns what the other elders have planned for her. So this is the wonderful Knife Elder episode. Our favorite boy, Salai, the elder that has only been mentioned, not even named, literally just, mentioned in passing twice,
Mm-hmm.
but has become our favorite boy.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we'll talk more about him in this episode.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, very much. The last episode we're covering is episode 66, Irog or Darling, and this is the episode where Mary and Laura talk. Other Mary recounts her other conversations, so this is the very famous, very, fan favorite Poly-Mary episode. Yippee!
Yippee!
It's the Polyam episode that everyone's been waiting for. So, definitely a lot to talk about here. I will start with some of our questions. In fact, I will start with a question that came weeks ago, but was appropriate for Anak, so I wanted to cover it here. I made sure to go back and find it, and it is a question from Jem, our wonderful Jem, listener, Discord person, and just amazing audio drama creator.
Thank you, Jem.
So, Jem asked, what would your Pocket the Cat be? So, I had to clarify this question. I was like, what do you mean? And Jem was like, what shape would your love take, your soul, your essence after you die? Which, for those of you who don't know, Pocket the Cat is sort of like an amalgamation of memories of somebody, of love after somebody had died. Pocket's kind of like an amalgamation of ghosts. And so, there's a lot more to it, but basically Pocket is taking the form of a black cat that was very well loved by John Isaac Weeks and young Will.
Mm-hmm.
So, what form would we take? Well, do you have an answer for this, Edward?
It's a tough one because, when it comes to Pocket in canon, she's not just one person's memories and essence. She's the essence of a cat and two little boys, right? So hers is a little bit more complicated.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose what my essence would take, I would probably want it to be a tree.
Aw, that would be nice. Any particular tree?
I don't know about what kind of tree. It's because I'd want it to be one that's non-invasive, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I guess to explain a little bit, when I was a little kid, I heard about the different kinds of burial methods, and I had a bit of a morbid curiosity about what happens after you die. Not necessarily in, like, the metaphysical, where do you go? Is there an afterlife? But more in the literal, like, what happens to your body. And I was fascinated with the idea of alternative burial methods.
Mm.
And one method that I saw was that your ashes could be incorporated as part of a tree, so that when that tree is planted, your ashes are kind of planted with it. So then your essence becomes, like, feeder food, essentially, for this new life coming out of the ground. I was so enchanted by that idea. I was like, ever since that moment, I was like, I want to become a tree when I die.
That would be wonderful, honestly.
And I think if I had to choose a form for my essence to take, I would want it to be some kind of tree, just because it's it's very rooted and very grounding.
Rooted.
And I like the idea of trees
rooted.
just being a place for people to sit and rest under.
Mm.
If you're ever feeling like you're having a bad day, just in general, I highly recommend finding a tree and sitting down underneath it with your back against the trunk. You will feel better. Even if it's just a little bit, you will feel a little bit better.
It's true.
There's something magical about trees that it's very healing for the soul.
That's true. That's true.
That's my long and short answer.
Yeah, that would be more of the form that you'd take. Yeah, the tree.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was like, instead of thinking of the answer to the question, I thought about what tree I would want to be, which is not the answer that is
not
asked
the answer.
for. But it really is all I can think about now.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's yeah, it is hard to answer because I don't know what form I would take, nor would I think of what my love would take the form of.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like the concept of a tree. I do like the concept of something that lives without speaking, but existing in a place where it can give to other people.
Mm-hmm.
And I find that to be a very peaceful thought. And I literally was just the other day looking up this tree in Toronto that I really like, which turns gold in the autumn.
Ooh.
And the leaves have just started turning gold. So it's you can see little bits of very bright golden yellow in the trees that I'm very excited about. And I found out it's called a honey locust, which is such an interesting name.
Such a cool name for a tree. Oh my goodness.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah, we have a tree similar to that here in the state where I live. I mean, they're kind of all over the United States, but this particular one is my favorite one. It's called an aspen tree.
Oh, yeah.
And a fun fact about the aspen, all of their roots are interconnected. So if you see a grove of aspen, that's technically one tree, just split into a bunch of smaller offshoots. And what you see above the ground is kind of like those offshoots, and underground is just one big interconnected root network.
Hell yeah.
So it's
kind of a mushroom.
In a sense, it's a lot like mushrooms in that sense. It's just like one large organism spread over a large area.
Yeah.
And their trunks are white. They have these strange sort of markings on the sides that almost kind of look like eyeballs. So it's a bit of an eerie sort of tree.
Yeah.
And the leaves are a really cute heart shape. And in the fall, they turn this bright gold color. It's so pretty. Super pretty.
That's awesome.
Tree.
That's
so
awesome.
I guess if I had to choose a tree, maybe I'd be an aspen.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Second half of the question.
Yeah, another answer. My other choice would be it's a flower called what was it called? It's called the Wow, I suddenly forgot the name. Gosh darn it, I'm mistaking it for another flower. I'll think about it later. But it's bougainvillea.
Oh, I love those.
Yeah, we have a very pink bougainvillea in front of our house that blooms in certain times of the year in the Philippines. So I miss that one, and I think about it when I want to go home. But yeah.
Oh, that's so cute.
It's very pink.
That's awesome. I love that.
But yeah. So the next question for episode 64, Anak, comes from Alex, wonderful listener Alex, who asks, by the way, suicide, content warning, because there is elements of that being talked about in the episode, and also Alex's question. And for those of you who haven't listened to the episode, go listen to it so you know what happens. But the basic premise is that Mary summons young Will, and Savard, aka Cornelius, has a very emotional reaction towards seeing his son, to the point that he's gonna allow himself to die at the hands of his son's ghost. His son's very angry ghost, and so that's part of what the question's about. Mm-hmm. Basically, question is, when Mary said Savard didn't have permission to kill himself, was she only talking about him, or also herself, since she carries a lot of guilt, and has almost sacrificed herself protecting others a few times?
Good question.
The answer is, Kinda, yes. Like, she's certainly in that moment to, alleviate Savard's, like, not guilt necessarily, but to kind of tell him, you don't have the right to die right now. You have to help people. What's interesting about Mary is that she has, like, dedicated herself to this job that she needs to do. So it's not necessarily that her self-sacrifice is very, like, it's not that she wants to die right now. Later is a different question, or a different answer entirely. But it's more that she is willing to sacrifice a lot of herself to save others. And so in her mind, it's sort of like a matter of, if you die for no reason, then that doesn't do anything. Like, it's not that she's against Savard dying, which is like a dark way of saying it, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's more that she has an issue with him throwing his life away when he could be helping people. So it's a different kind of toxic, but it is what Savard needed to hear, because he and Mary are very similar type of toxic.
Yes.
Where they're like, where he wouldn't listen to, you have so much to live for, but he will listen to, this is a useless death. And that's what, like, obviously, other than the fact that, like, she also invoked the name of Danny, and that definitely, like, affected Savard a little bit. Although to be honest, though, I don't think just the idea of Danny would have, like, saved Savard from the brink.
No.
Like, he likes Danny, he loves Danny, but that's not what would have saved him from the brink.
Yeah.
The idea that other people would die because of his mistakes is what saved him from the brink. Which, same thing as Mary, they both have a lot of toxic guilt. Although Savard deserves it a lot more, the guilt, it's still toxic because, it drives him in a way that's not healthy for him as a person.
Exactly. And adding on to the thing with Danny, I think Savard is old enough to where he knows what it's like to be old. I'll try to rephrase that. Looking back on my life at my age, currently in this episode I'm 31. Looking back on the decades that I've been alive so far, I realize how young I was back in, like, high school, middle school, elementary school. But back in those earlier decades, I felt like I was older. I knew more. I had more experiences to look back on. And at, like, even 16, 18 years old, I was like, I'm like, basically an adult. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I want, kind of thing. And looking back on it, no, I didn't. I absolutely did not. And I think Savard is kind of in that same vein where he's so old. He's such, he's been around for so long. He's immortal. He has all of these experiences, good and bad, to look back on. And I think in some ways he looks at Danny and goes, you don't realize how young you are. And if I disappear, you might be sad for a while, but you'll move on because you're young and the young bounce back.
Yeah.
And so I think if Mari had tried to be like, you still have so much to live for, what about Danny? He would have just been like, what about him?
Yeah.
I'm sad to lose him, I'm sad to leave him, but, like, what about him?
Exactly. And yeah, he does say, like, he'd be better off without me. And that's where Mary, like, sort of jumps jumps from that topic to being like, well, what about all the people, like, he who saved his life, he wouldn't be alive without you. So that's, like, what convinces him, not so much his love for Danny, but basically the utility of his existence.
Exactly. The fact that he made a difference for somebody, as opposed to only causing harm.
Exactly.
He helped somebody. He saved somebody's life. That's a dramatically different feeling than being the reason why people are dying.
Yeah, and that's the reason he stayed alive. Because, like, he was extremely, like, self-destructive and, self-flagellating and suicidal when young Will died. And that's why he, like, is so ready to give himself up again when he sees young Will's ghost. It's like, he brings him back to the grief. Like, he became homeless not by thoughtful choice. He became homeless because he was in such, like, an unbelievable amount of grief that he spent, like, years and years and years sort of just wandering the world, wandering, like, quote-unquote, the wilderness, but, like, just as, like, a vagabond, as a vagrant.
Yeah.
Those two words are so similar, but anyway, like, both, anyway. Like, a vagrant, and just, because of, like, what he experienced, because of the loss. So, yeah. Oh, okay, one more part of Alex's question is, what was the name young Will and John Isaac gave the cat whose memory would eventually become Pocket? I'm assuming she got a name. She got the name Pocket due to her connection to the pocket watch. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Pocket was the name that Jay gave her.
Mm-hmm.
But her birth name, or her living name was, and Edward, you can answer this one.
So originally, Motzie suggested the name Lady Fuzzy Bum,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting here like, having been a little kid and having had so many friends who name their pets at very young ages, kids come up with the wildest names. So I think we agreed that her name was Lady Victoria von Fizzybum III.
Yeah, or I think it's Fuzzy Bum still. Like, look,
Because kids are just like that.
Yeah, exactly. I remember that we actually thought of a different name a long time ago and just forgot about it, but I remember, the consistent thing is that we want the name to be really dumb, really elaborate, really silly.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you, as a listener, have your own ideas for what Pocket's name could be, you absolutely can make it up yourself.
Absolutely.
Something in the vein of, like, Lady Victoria von Fuzzybum III or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. And please tag us if you decide what the name is. We want to hear your suggestions.
Exactly.
Lady Victoria von Fizzybum III is not necessarily her canonical name.
Yeah.
Just because I think it's fun if you kind of fill in the blanks for yourself, dear listener.
Exactly. It's dumb. That's all you need to know.
It's
a dumb name.
It was long,
it's
and
long.
It was invented by young children.
Exactly. So silly. I love it. Teehee. But yeah. Okay. Let me find the next question real quick. And here we go. The next questions are from Phoenix139, wonderful listener Phoenix. So the first question is, first of all, I love Pocket. Pocket merch when? Good question. But what was the inspiration for such a creature/backstory? I love the whole Pocket Watch as a cat soul idea and just wondering if anything inspired it.
That's also a good question.
That is a good question. I don't... What was it? I don't remember what inspired it.
I don't know if you actually told me, because I know you started talking to me about this idea you had for this amalgamation ghost that, kind of haunts Richard Henry's grave.
Yeah.
But I don't remember if you told me what the inspiration was. I think it just kind of was an idea that landed in your head fully formed, based on the way it kind of sounded for me.
Yeah, I remember that the pocket watch being a power source was certainly, like, very, I did not make this connection at the time, but a lot of Haina is inspired by Full Metal Alchemist, the manga, and of course, like, Brotherhood. Yeah. So, the pocket watch thing, I did not realize I had been pulling from Full Metal Alchemist until I, like, because I just thought, oh, he carries a pocket watch, like, that's a magical item that he could have, blah, 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 blah. And then, like, a month later, I was like, wait a minute, Full Metal Alchemist has a pocket watch. So that was, like, something I thought about. I'm like, oh, yeah, maybe it was inspired by that, like, incidentally. But the idea of Pocket being in that pocket watch, like, being just a creature, was something completely separate. That was something where I was like, I just thought it would be an interesting idea, and I wanted to play with, like, the kind of creature that she was, because it was such a fascinating idea to have, like, a thing that was a cat, but also two boys, but also a big monster. And that was kind of just, like, I feel like something did inspire it, but I cannot think of it at this time. But it was definitely, like, the two ideas of Pocket the cat creature and Pocket the pocket watch were completely separate ideas that I just smushed together. So thank you for asking, because now I have to, like, go back and try to remember what I was, like, thinking at the time when I invented her, because it's often, like, a weird something that, like, inspires me in that moment, but I don't remember what it was at this time.
If you do end up finding it, we can probably bring it up in the next B-side, so keep your ears peeled.
Sure. For sure.
Keep your ears open. You keep your eyes open and your ears peeled. Yes, definitely.
Next horror episode, peeled ears.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Okay. A second question about Mary. I'm less sure if this applies to these episodes or more recent ones, but I'm wondering if you can explain more about natural magic users such as Mary. Obviously, they have innate powers versus having to use other means to get power, but why or how do natural magic users exist? Is it a fluke of fate, birth, divine blessing? Are certain bloodlines, cultures, something else more likely to be natural users? I will also accept the answer of this will be revealed later in the show. I just love learning and exploring how different people world build powered people in their creations. So, The answer to that, I think I've answered this briefly before in the Discord when we were discussing it, but basically it's kind of random. So, certain people getting powers is, in the Heine universe, sort of like the random confluence of things in the universe, the same way that, it's random who sees a ball lightning. Like that, right? Like, ball lightning is very rare, but it's real, and certain people get to see it, but most people don't. And I find the same, that's kind of the same concept that rules natural users. Certain people become natural users by randomness. However, the confluence of, elements that might cause somebody to become a natural user is more likely if your family or your community or something has, a spirit, a sort of connection to magic. So, a large amount of spiritualism or, a belief in certain gods, etc., it does not guarantee that someone's a natural user. It just means that, for example, you're more likely to see ball lightning if you are in a place where storms happen. Same thing, you are more likely to become a natural user if your family is constantly doing magic stuff.
Which explains Ashvin, yeah.
Which explains Ashvin, which explains Mary. They are both children of magic users, of of shamans, essentially. So, but in the case of Lori, for example, she was semi-random, but she was, constantly sort of, wanting to be with the fairies, right? So, in her case, her connection to the Fae, as somebody from, a town that is vaguely Irish-coded, but, everyone's, but in North America in, the 1940s, she was a natural user, and her connection to magic was kind of a little stronger. Another thing I mention is that a lot of natural users in the universe of Hainai never realize that they can do magic, which is, a fun little thing where a lot of natural users could have a high aptitude in magic if they knew that magic existed, but many of them don't.
Yes, and that's, a really fun thought experiment of, how many people in the Hainai universe just go around not realizing they have the ability to do magic?
Exactly, and the way I describe those people is something like, you know how some people are extremely lucky? They always win lotteries, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or they have, one weird thing that they're really good at? That's kind of certain natural users don't just do magic, but they have a little teeny bit of specific magic in their lives. I will always arrive at to get the freshest piece of bread in the morning, or I will, always, the traffic lights will always turn green when I arrive at the stop. Things like that. They are influencing the world around them, but they don't realize that they're influencing the world around them. They are just used to this thing happening around them. So, there are a lot of magic users, or natural users, that don't use magic, except in, really small ways that they can chalk up to coincidence. And then there are natural users like Mary, like Ashvin, who were, led in a certain direction. And then there's Lori, who was unfortunately exposed to magic, but was not guided in a way that would have made her more, less destructive. So that's sort of how it goes. Mostly random, but even randomness has, certain elements that will make it more likely than others. So it is a random happenstance that is influenced slightly by certain factors. And it is because magic exists in the universe at large, and is constantly interacting with the world and humanity. So the last question from Phoenix is, karaoke episode when? Silly question. I'm maybe soon, maybe sooner than you think. Who knows?
Who knows?
Or I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
It depends on whether or not we can find it within ourselves to actually do something as brave as singing in a podcast, right?
Exactly. Listen, last B-Sides was the karaoke episode. That's all you need. What will it take to get a canonical or not bonus karaoke episode at the end of the team? Probably the next fundraiser, the next High Night fundraiser will make that the stretch goal. That's probably what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So the last question I'll be covering is actually one we've covered before, but I want to bring it up now because it is relevant for Irog or Darling, the newest, not the newest episode, but like the polyamory episode. It was back in the last B-sides, but basically Tia asked, other than personal preference, is there a reason that there are so many poly relationships in Hainai? And I had answered because it was based on Young Will, Benefactor, and Marianne, and Jack Robin, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did not consider that to be poly.
Mm-hmm.
However, I did mention that yes, there was a polyamory between Jay and Marigold, Jay's wife, and, Dooley. But now there's also polyamory with Donner and Mary being together, and also Mary finding out that Laura's in love with her and reciprocating those feelings.
Mm-hmm.
So the answer to that is yes, personal preference, because I, as a pansexual creator, I do find it to be very, rewarding to have this sort of love.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this sort of, open, very honest, very communicative, very, warm love that is not necessarily limited by insecurity and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, I find that to be really nice. And I try to, add, queerness to stories, but I also try to add, a bit of non-monogamy here and there. Not as much as I add queerness, but certainly, just enough to kind of make it very much, noticeable, because, you have Dooley, and you have Jay and Marigold, and then you have Mary, Donner, and Laura. So, that's absolutely something that I like to pepper into the stories as much as I can.
Absolutely. And, the thing with being a writer, a creator of any kind of story, is, broadly speaking, when you write a story, you put something of yourself into that story, right? Even if you don't intend to, or you're trying not to, you're always going to bring your own experiences and your own feelings and your own thoughts and opinions into that creative work, which in some cases is why you can't really separate the author from the fiction. You can't have that separation of the art versus the artist, because you're always going to have some level of artist or author in that work, which is why when you're studying any kind of literacy, they want to have you put an emphasis on studying the time period that it was written, just so that you have some context in that. And for a podcast like this, you're kind of creating it for yourself more than anything. Yeah, you want to share the story with everybody, but you're mostly writing it for yourself because you're the only one that is guaranteed to listen to it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. When you're starting the project, you can't always guarantee that you're going to get a listenership. You're not going to get a guarantee that people are going to continue listening to the very end. So you write for yourself, and that's true of anything, whether you're writing a fanfic or an actual novel, or, you're writing a script for a TV show or a movie or whatever. There's no guarantee that you're going to have an audience, so you might as well write for the audience of one and let people come to you for it. And if you are a polyamorous individual, why not write in your own representation, right? So I guess, in personal preference, it's not necessarily that you're trying to make representation for other people. You're trying to create the representation that you don't get to see all that often. Or at least that's how I would explain my answer if I was the one actually doing the writing.
Exactly.
You can tell me if I'm off base or not.
I think that's fair to say. And I think, I don't talk about this a lot because I don't really date that much. And, being that I don't date that much, it doesn't become very relevant. But I also am polyamorous, and so... But I am, I'm full of insecurity, and so I've never really dated polyamorously, even though I'd want to.
Mm-hmm.
My big insecurity is that I don't want to be the third person.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the first or second, either of the second people, which is a kind of a toxic way of looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I'd be a good fit for that sort of dating life anyway. But that being said, it's but it is something where I do want to see stories where people are unafraid enough and loving enough to have that sort of relationship. And and not just in a way where it feels so disconnected from reality. I want it to feel earned in a story sense, which is why I sort of
Yeah, they're not magically getting together because, it's I don't know, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you, but it's kind of when reading stories like fanfic, a lot of the times if a relationship is polyamorous, it just kind of feels I don't want to call it a cop-out necessarily, but, like, I couldn't figure out how to make one ship work without all three of them, to the point where, like, it might come off as codependent or whatever. Like, it doesn't feel as earned as something that's a natural progression in a relationship, I guess, is how I'd put it. I don't know.
Exactly. And polyamory is, like, it requires a certain level of bravery.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, it's a lot like how queerness in the past, and even now, but, like, definitely, like, culturally in the past, it was very much something dangerous, and you had to really commit to it.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with polyamory, and even now, like, there is not as much acceptance, there's a lot more judgment,
Mm-hmm.
and so it becomes an interesting thing where I don't know if I'm brave enough to get into it as a person, even though it's something that I want. But in a story like this, it's like these are some people who get to have it, but also, you know, still struggle with some of the ways that it, like, becomes a struggle.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I want people who are able to communicate with each other and kind of, like, show this love. And I think, like, falling in love easily is something that I like to have with certain characters to show how emotionally attached they get to the people around them.
Mm-hmm.
And so with Mary, obviously she's not falling in love with every person or whatever, but, like, her falling in love with the people who love her that much is something where it's just a little bit of wish fulfillment, but it's also a little bit of, like, what I think sets Hainai apart from other podcasts in general,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly,
I think is something that people like about the show. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's something that I love about the show, for sure.
Thank you, yeah, and it is, like, yes, it is personal preference, but it's also, like, something that I thought would work really well with all these characters, these very different, but very loving, very warm, and very, you know, characters who rely on each other.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. And so, now that we have finished answering the listener questions, I want to bring up something funny about these episodes, or something fun about these episodes. So obviously, Anak is all about Savard, and young Will and Mary,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, like, how young Will's a burning ghost,
Mm-hmm.
and very, like, emotional things about both Mary and Savard and their toxic, you know, savior complex.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something where we, as friends, like to talk about certain characters very often.
Mm-hmm.
And it just so happens that all three of these episodes cover three things we love to talk about. 64 being Savard, 65, and of course Pocket, 65 being Knife Elder Salai, and 66 being the polyamory in Hainai.
Mm-hmm.
So these three episodes in particular are very us-coded.
Oh, extremely.
What
I
we
was
like
very
to talk
excited for
about.
all three of these to come out.
Yeah, it's also why I wanted to, like, make sure that we were kind of, you know, we not breeze through, but we certainly wanted to, like, keep things brisk for the questions, because I knew that a lot of our time would be spent talking about
Oh, yeah.
Salai. let's be open about it. We'll talk about Salai.
Listen, as much as I love talking about Laura and Donner and Mari, and I really love talking about Savard, like, listen, I'm a Danny's boy. I am Danny, and I'm a Danny's boy.
Mm-hmm.
I love the relationship between Danny and Savard.
Mm-hmm.
I could talk about Salai all day long. He is a fascinating character. If I have to have a little Blorbo from the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
Salai is my Blorbo. He's my little meow meow. He's my problematic, cat-coded villain of a character. And I love
exactly.
him so much.
Oh my god, you don't know.
Out of all of the characters in this show, Salai is my favorite. By far.
God, Salai is... well, there'll be more episodes in the near future which cover him. But what you see in Balisong, where he meets Mary in her dreams, very much Salai. Salai is like... He's the kind of character who... All the other elders, they kind of fear him, even though... Here's the thing, he's an elder, but he's also an apprentice. He's technically an apprentice elder.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, the other elders, including Vanessa, by the way, are afraid of him because he is a dream assassin.
Yes.
Like, he is straight up their most effective assassin, and they have certainly used him over certain years to handle issues that they've had.
Mm-hmm.
And we will cover more about what he does, but he loves knives. He is Knife Elder. He loves knives.
He is a knife collector. He's a knife connoisseur.
He's a knife aficionado, and he knows how to use them. And
Aficionado is a better word.
so not to spoil more about him, but basically what we know of Salai is, one, we have confirmed that he is the young child that Manfred saved from Thompson's basement all those many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He is the one with missing fingers. He is the one who, who basically existed in the nightmares of Thompson's descendants.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be explained in a later episode, but basically we know that he is the child who was trapped in that basement, who had his fingers essentially frozen off by Thompson, and who was rescued by Manfred.
Mm-hmm.
And so now we know that he is Manfred's apprentice, and while we don't know much yet, what we do understand is that the other elders believe, and this has been covered since the meeting that Mary had with the elders,
Mm-hmm.
the other elders believe that he wants to kill Manfred and just so happens to have not done that yet,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing about his backstory with Manfred. So
Mm-hmm.
you have, again, like a very similar thing with the benefactor, where elders will claim one thing about the benefactor, then you actually meet him and he seems completely different.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Same thing with Salai, where there's a claim that he wants to kill Manfred, but this is the man who saved his life when he was a kid.
Exactly.
So we get to play with, like, that nuance, that interesting nuance. And of course, the things that Salai said himself in that episode will make you think. Will make you think a little bit. But yes, he is very cat-coded. He's like, his knives are his claws.
Exactly.
Those are his danger mittens.
His danger mittens. Oh my god. It's true, though. Every time I picture Salai, I picture him doing, like, that little :3 C face. The little,
yeah, yeah.
He's
little yeah.
He's
little
so
yeah.
Funny. He's so cat-coded to me.
He really is. And if you, as a listener, want to, go back and hear everything about Salai so far, all you gotta do is, one, look at look at the episode where he's very briefly mentioned in the meeting episode, Pulong,
Mm-hmm.
and then we find out more about him when, we learn about, in the Manfred episode, obviously, and then we learn about him in the Nightmare episode, Bangungot, and then now in the Knife Elder, Balisong episode. And some people thought, so I'm gonna jump ahead slightly for certain episodes that are very recent, but some people, actually, no, that's a spoiler, never mind, ignore what I just said.
I was gonna say,
erase that
sure
from your memory. That's true. But yeah, he's the one who plucked Mary's Balisong from her dreams and gave it to her. And some people are wondering, like, how this worked. Like, was it his knife? No. What he did was, because he is an elder of dreams, and by the way, he has, like, star eyes, and he's an elder of dreams, and it's another instance where I did not realize I was being inspired by something else until, like, it was laid out for me, that it's like, oh, he's a dream guy with starry eyes. Oops. Anyway.
Oh, god damn it.
Yeah, it is, right? Like, you didn't realize.
I just now made the connection.
Yeah, and I decided those things separately. So I did not make the connection until I was like, wait a minute. I did it again. I did it with Pocket, and I'm doing it again with Salai. But it's fine. It's fine.
And they're both cats.
Literally
and metaphorically.
Yeah, see? We're talking about Dream from the Sandman series. But yeah. So
Dream from Sandman.
So, Salai...
That's so funny.
Right? It's so funny. I haven't even, like, picked a voice for Salai. Obviously, Mary, or other Mary, talks about him in the episode that he appears in,
mm-hmm.
but he doesn't even really have a voice. And that's because I never really thought of who would play him.
Mm-hmm.
He is such a specific figure in my mind that I think just having him be narrated feels a lot better, similar to Manfred.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Manfred doesn't have a voice actor, but he's also a very specific character in my mind. And, yeah, and so that's Salai's, like, master, essentially, or, like, his elder teacher. And so we'll learn a little more about the relationship, but you can kind of guess based on, obviously,
mm-hmm.
like, one, Manfred's not in a good spot right now.
No.
And two, the elders seem to think that Salai's going to kill him. But three, we find out that Salai is the boy that he saved. So,
mm-hmm.
a lot of conflicting information here. And, yeah, it's just an interesting time with them.
It really is. Quick tangent, did we ever discuss who Manfred was inspired by?
Oh, I don't think we ever actually discussed who he was inspired by, But I have mentioned in, like, social media who he looks like to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, Salai I've drawn. I've drawn Salai in a certain way. Like, he has a little mole above his lip. He's, like, very, like, cat-like in a lot of ways. But honestly, his starry eyes, etc. But with Manfred, even though I've only drawn him once, basically how I imagine Manfred to be is that he was directly inspired visually by Harry Dubois from Disco Elysium.
So,
his gigantic
just for everybody's
mustache.
reference, he has a giant mustache and he's very Harry Dubois coded, especially with the whole, like, wet cat stuck in a paper sack kind of vibe.
Exactly.
He's very sad and very pathetic.
Yeah, Manfred is very pathetic.
Especially
but
compared to Salai, who is very well put together, very elegant, very mysterious, very beautiful. That dichotomy, that the compare contrast there is just so entertaining to me. It's one reason why I love him so much. Which is even funnier because, because originally they weren't supposed to be major players. They were just kind of like side characters.
I did it again!
We literally did it again! They weren't supposed to have a major role, but we both just loved them too much to just leave them in the sides. And I really hope that you, dear listeners, love them as much as we do, especially once we get into the later episodes where they come back again.
Yeah, oh god, I was like, I'm just gonna make up Manfred. I like him, but he's only one episode. And then I keep building and building on him, and I'm just like, god damn it, I like him too much. What have I done?
I mean, unfortunately, you did set yourself up for that, because you invented this very, like, scared and paranoid old man who carves symbols into his hands, and then introduced him as a man who was going to be killed by his own apprentice. And you expected yourself to just leave it at that?
Mm-hmm. And then I gave him a backstory, a really, really sympathetic.
You gave him a backstory, you gave him a really cool apprentice character, and...
Mm-hmm. And remember, honestly, just to remind everybody, Manfred is a fucking badass. Like, here's the thing, right now he is not in his best, he's not in the best situation. He is clearly paranoid, very stressed out. He, as Vanessa said in a later episode, he is not, like, he looks like he's aged, even though he's not supposed to age, like, physically, as an elder.
Yeah.
But he's not in a good way. But at the same time, when you think about the kind of man he was, like, kind of an idiot, but an idealist. And then the moment that he sees that his friend Thompson was harming somebody, he lamp murdered that man. Like, his heart was basically in the exact right place for an elder. Like, shockingly for an elder. And that's why I love him so much. He's, like, simple in some ways, but so very nuanced in others. It is just a man who has been thoroughly, like, all of his delusions have been taken away from him, and he has just seen exactly what they are.
Exactly.
And, yeah, it makes him very much the saddest character in Hainai, of which there are many. If you're listening to this, you may have noticed that you have not heard the entire episode of this B-Sides, and that is because we release a public version of it that is a cut-down version of this episode, and we allow the full episode to be aired on our Patreon for our $10 tier and above. That's the At That tier. It's our ideal tier where you get bonus episodes, and one of those bonus episode types is the full uncut B-Sides episodes. And we talk a lot about really fun stuff in that one. For this particular episode, we talk at length about Salai and also the polyamory between Laura, Mary, and Donner. So there's certainly a conversation you'll want to hear.
Yeah, you don't want to miss out on this one.
And you really don't. But yeah, if you are interested in listening to that, you can go to patreon.com/HiNiPod and subscribe as a $10 patron. You can access all of our full-length B-Sides episodes as a $10 patron, and it's a great way to support the podcast, make sure it keeps going. Some months are a little slower than others, so we don't earn as much as we'd like to keep this podcast going. But at the same time, we really appreciate all the support, so even if you can't support us on the Patreon, just listening to the episodes gets us ad revenue, it gets us, more listenership, and it really helps the podcast, so you can support it in many ways.
Exactly.
And even just talking about us online is a big help. Like, if I could do this podcast for free forever, I would. But we all live under capitalism, so if you're able to support our Patreon, highly appreciated. But if you're just able to talk to us as well and encourage other people to listen to us, that'll also be highly appreciated. So yeah, full episode on the Patreon page. But in the meantime, I'm so glad that you're here with us for the short version of this episode. And I'm really grateful that you're all still listening as we close in, although it's still like sort of up in the air exactly when it's going to happen, as we close in on the finale of this very, very long Act 3.
Very long Act 3.
Yes, well, it's the special one.
It is.
So, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
We hope you have a great rest of your week. And thank you, Edward, for joining me in this discussion. We're certainly going to probably, we could make a bonus B-sides where we just talk about Salai.
Honestly, if that's something
and fanfics in general. So
if that's something that you actually want to listen to,
I think that'll be a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're listening to this part and you want to hear us yap about them and just like maybe our AUs in general, please leave us a comment on social media, leave a comment on our YouTube channel, leave us comments just wherever, and just tag us, hashtag High Night Podcast or High Night Pod, and just let us know if that's something you're interested in. Because we really could do a whole, hour-long episode just on that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on AUs, just on fanfics, just on, I say fanfics, I'm the creator. It could just be, the actual story. But there are many ideas for Hainai that I have that will never enter the podcast, but are ones that I want to explore. Mm-hmm. So, and in some ways, maybe doing it in the B-sides would be a fun idea.
I think so. It's not canon unless it's in the podcast, but, yeah.
So let us know if that's something you want, or if you have any other ideas for B-sides. I mean, some people really want the karaoke episode.
Yeah, that's another thing. If you want to hear us sing karaoke, or if you're American, karaoke, that's another thing. Just, let us know on social media, let us know in the comments, if you want to hear us attempt to sing for your entertainment.
God, that would be so silly. But we do it. We definitely do it. We'd, script out a fake, Danny and Mary just meet up for karaoke episode.
Oh, God, that'd be so cute.
That's what the people want.
That would be so cute, actually. If that's what the people want, it's what the people will get.
Anyway, thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And we love you, and have a great rest of your week. Bye!
Bye!